Now we'd like to implement this to update this test integer DLL, which you remember we said that this test DLL is the one that has this DLL iterator, that DLL now that implements the iterable. Now this iterable is going to be used because it will require only to have a method called iterator that returns an iterator, and then we created this inner class that implements the iterator that we return every time the iterator is called, which is having this has next, and we said we don't need the next here, the remove. All we need to do is this basically. So this is what we had. And we would like now to update this, so in order for us to have some kind of a method that uses the iterator the same way like these are using, to be able to print all odd numbers. And you're not seeing this on your screens? Okay, maybe better now? Okay, so what I need to do is now I would like to create this method. So basically I can just close these so they don't disturb. I'm going to create a public static method because I would like to call it from the main, so I'll make it static. And then this method should just print all odd numbers. So I would like to use this using the iterator or the for each. So does it return anything? Not really. Just print odd numbers. So it will just need to have the list so this list, and then from that what I need to do is just to be able to look upon each element on the list by using a for each. Now the for each is something like this that I can do to use this integer, or I can use int, which is okay. Notice this is lowercase I, so it's not the data type. So either I do this or this is the same. Why? Because integer, the class, is a wrapper class around the int. It just makes this primitive data type become like, it's like an equivalent of the primitive data type as a class data type. So I can use it here. So I can do this, which is fine, or I can do this, which is fine too. Yes, because our list is a list of integers, the object, because you cannot use a primitive data type in the generics. So, but anyways, let's use this because you use the int. Let me show you what would be the result if I do that. Now, I'm going to use this integer same way like I'm using anything. I'm going to just now ask a question. If this one is odd, how can I know if it's odd? If modular division by 2 is going to give me 1. So I'm using it as if it's a primitive data type anyways. So if it is, then I'm going to print that integer and put a space, for example, and not go back to the line. So now all I have to do is this, and then maybe at the end of the loop go back to the line, so because I'm not going back to the line in the loop here. And that's how I can just have a for each that goes from every element of the list, and then I can just check which one is odd and display it. You had a question?
And the operation.
Which operation?
The main method.
Okay. You're talking about how to call this. Well, do I need to call this? Well, I only need to call this just to test it. But basically, this first part, that's what I just did. Now to test it, let's just add something. Well, because I'm lazy, I don't want to make changes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going just to keep 9 for quit and just make 10 now to be print odd numbers. It's fine. So now in the case, I'm just going to, well, make another one, case 10, and the odd elements in the list are, and here we go, just print odd numbers. But I can't do it this way because this is a void method.
Yeah.
So
Just put it down.
if I want to do it that way, I could just make it return a string, but I don't, doesn't matter. And that's it now. Now if you want to test it, of course you have to run. Which one is my main? Now this is one thing, every time you run you can select which one is going to be your main, but now if I select this one, next time it's going to not allow me to select another one unless I just go back here. So I'm going to show you, inshallah. So let me run this thing. So it's running. It's going to ask me whatever, what do you like to do, and I'm just going to add a node to the head with 2, and add another node to the head with 3, another one to the head with 4. Now the list is 4 1 3 4 3 2. Sorry, let's just add 1 to the head again to be the 1. Now it's 1 4 3 2. Now what if I just would like to print only the odd elements in the list? So it does. That's the first question here. Now if you'd like to go on, and I'd like to do the same thing now, but instead of test integer, it's test item. So let's just go back and refresh our memory about the item. The item has just a name and price. And then how do I compare two items? I compare it by just the name. If the name are equal, I can know that they're equal. Why am I doing that? Because in this next question, this method here is going to give me just a name of an item. I need to find that item by its name, then get its price, multiply it by the quantity, and give me the total cost. Yeah. And you're in it.
Plus item, don't you need get price to access price? Just the private.
All right, that's let's see. Do we have any accessors? No, but you see they are made public anyways. But you're right, the better implementation would have been to put a getter out of these. So I'm going to do that by just having this, insert code. You remember we have this alt insert that allows me to insert some code, and I'm going to get some getters and setters, and I'm going to select everything. Encapsulate fields means put them private and generate. So I'll have this get price and set price. So get name, get price, set price. Now that's much better. But out of convenience, it was made public, so you don't have to call that. So now that's the thing. Let's just now we don't want this. Let's just look at this test item now and create this new method that we'd like to be creating. And I'm formatting everything, so it's just go back here. Okay, so I'm not interested in this. I just would like to create my new method. This new method will return a double. So what I need to do is to have a for each again. I think you can just type for each and then no, what is that? So just for and control space, and then you select this, and it's going to give you now You see, it was able to find that this is a list of items, so it was able to prepare for each for me kind of conveniently, because for every item, lowercase item, in the list, I'd like to check if, ask a question, if the item dot get name is going to be equal to this item name. That's the parameter, item name. And if I find it's equal, then all I need to do,
Get the price multiplied by quantity.
return the price from that item. So item dot get price multiplied by the quantity that was given as a parameter, and return it. Now this does not look for if there were many products with the same name, because we just look if the first one that we find with the exact same name, we just return the price multiplied by the quantity.
The user here give me a false name. It's going to be an error for the compiler.
Okay, now there's some problem here. We're not done yet,
Yeah.
because when we find it, we are able to return something. But what if it doesn't exist in the list? I'm asking for a product name that doesn't exist in the list. So this is never going to be true. Then I need to return something. So it's telling me, it finds out that this return is only in a special case, but maybe there's a case where nothing is going to be returned. And this is what it's going to tell me here. Missing return statement. Because not all paths are going to be, not all possibilities are taken care of here. I'm just taking care of just when I find it. Well, what happens when I don't find it? I need to return something. What should I return? It's a double. The total cost will be 0 because there's nothing. Actually, I did not find it, so why would I return -1? Might be confusing. Why -1? But 0 is the total cost. So that's,
Minus 1 is going to be multiplied.
and so it's why -1 put my raised question. This is a cost. Why is it negative? Am I going to pay because I mean they're going to pay me if they don't find it? Because you give some kind of, you find a name that doesn't exist, they're going to pay you instead of you paying. So anyways, that's the method. Now if I'd like to test it again, let's go back and find some spot for it and copy paste, give it 9, 10, this again, and then cost, total cost. I'm just going to call it total cost because I'm lazy to try to come up with a big name, long name, and just copy this, copy and paste, make it 10. Now I'm going to ask, enter the name of the product, name of the item, and this should be well, I have name, and next. Then once I have the name, I'm going to it's total cost, right? And I'm going to say the total cost. I need the quantity though. Yes, exactly. So I need the quantity. So total cost is, but I cannot finish it until I have the quantity. So how can I get the quantity? Copy, oops. Copy, paste, and please enter the quantity of that quantity. Okay, and let's put a space, and now I need to have a variable called quantity. Do I have? So I'm going to make it the quantity. Is it a double or int? What was, we make it int, so let's keep it that int. So I'm going to make it int quantity and next int. Now that I have that, I can just call the total cost with the name, quantity, and the list that is already there. And that's it. And let's run that. So let's add a new, but no, notice this is testing integer, because by default this is what is going to be given to me, and that's not what I want. Now if I would like to run this, I can just right click and run the file. It's going to run the testing item. And okay, now if I wanted to make it permanent, I just right click on the project and go to properties. In the run, now it tells me that every time I press on run, it's going to run the test integer DLL. Now I want it to be this, and here it goes. Now if I run, is a test item. So let's add an item, item A, price this, add another item to the tail, B, price 20. Now if I print them, this is A 12 and B 20. Now if I'd like to get the total cost of A, and I buy 10, so the total cost should be,
120.
the price is 12 multiplied by 10, 120, so I should see 120. The total cost is 120. This is done again. So we use the iterator that computes the return total cost given the quantity purchased, and that's it. Okay, now we need to do something with this test student. So just to work with the student, just print good students who are just those ones who have a GPA greater than 2. So basically we'd like to have this here as the iterator. Now we don't have this iterator. Let me see what's the problem here. Okay, what is the problem? Oh, because I just removed this thing. Okay, let's remove this. Now just in order to have this one to be able to implement, to have an iterator, it should, remember, implement iterable. With the same T. And yeah, implements. Now if I have this, I need to implement all abstract methods, which basically just the iterator here, and it gives me the iterator that I need to implement. So now this has to have something. So I need to return an iterator, but I don't have an iterator. What I'm going to do, I'm going to create an inner class that is going to be this iterator of mine. I don't have to, again, put it in the inner class, but it's better to have it in the inner class. Iterator, it's more organized. That's going to implement an iterator. So this one needs to have to implement all abstract methods, which is has, next, and next. And I need to put something in them. But also this here now allows me to return this DLL new DLL iterator. But the problem is that I forgot to make this to be generic, because my iterator should be generic because it accepts anything. Now you remember what I should do here? I should make something that iterates. So I should have a node that is going to be my temp. That I start always from the head because I'd like to start from the first part. And then this has next needs to check if this temp is not null, because if it's not null, it has a next. If it's null, it doesn't have a next. And then here, what should I do? I should need to change the location of temp to the next one, but I need to return. Before doing that, I need to return the info. So I need to do something like return temp.info. But if I do this, I cannot execute this afterwards. So let's declare a variable that is going to be the info. I put inside of it this temp.info, I move it, then I return the info. And that's what I need to do to make this become iterable. Now there's a red line. I need to save. Oh no, there's still a red line. So it tells me type argument t number 1 is not within bounds of type variable t number 2, where t number 1, t number 2 are type variables. Now the t number 1 extends object declared in class DLL Iterator, and t number 2 extends comparable declared in class DLL node. Because remember now, this t that I'm putting in the node, I said it should have a condition, it should be comparable. You remember what we did last time. So now this t here, that in this class, I did not make it has to be comparable, which means it can be anything. But now what I need to do, it tells me that you cannot use that unless you have something like, oh, hold on, something like this. That iterator should be comparable, but this is still complaining. This is t. Now t, I'm saying that this t in the iterator should be comparable, extending comparable, which means it should be comparable. But I'm not sure why this is still a problem now. It tells me incompatible types DLL T1 and DLL node T1 cannot be converted to DLL T1 DLL node 1. Okay, this is kind of T1 extends comparable declared in, and T2 extends comparable declared in class DLL.DLL. What is the point? Both of them extends comparable, but I'm not sure to understand what they're talking about. Let me see. I have this DLL, now this is extend the comparable that implements iterable with the same t. Now, okay, this one,
Maybe you have to extend the one that's at the top.
you mean the one that I'm extending in the DLL, but let's read the error message again. So the one that is a problem, it says the DLL T and DLL node T1, okay, can we convert DLL T1 and DLL node T2?
Make it DLL, no need, no.
Where T1 and T2 are type variable and T1 extends comparable declared in class DLL, and T2, where's T2, and DLL node?
DLL node. Make it DLL, no need for node. Maybe.
No, I'm not sure to understand that. Because this look, when I click here, that means this is this one. Now this is this t here, maybe is this iterator. I'm not sure that this is what. No, this is not how it works.
Delete the node.
Well, I don't want to delete the node. What would I? This node t, and this is where you want to put it here. You mean? No, this is not. This is not where it should be, because I'm putting a condition on the t. Now this t is the same down here. So this t now that is converted is. Let me just do something. I'm going to remove this to call it type, and let's make it capital. So now maybe the error message might be, so the DLL T and DLL node T cannot be converted to DLL T and DLL node type, where T and type are different types. Now this is the part that there's something there's a problem now that I'm not seeing
What about it?
because of that comparable.
Iterable. Maybe the head is private.
Maybe the head is private? What do you mean the head is private? This one?
Yes.
It's not about being private, it's not about you cannot access it. It tells me it's like a different data type to it. Like it understands that this T here and this T here are different ones. I'm sorry? In the node class,
Implement
you wanted to implement iterable? Why? If we do that, that means we need to implement all the methods from iterable, which is not what we want. We want just the list to be able to be iterable, not the node itself.
What about the T at iterable?
What do you mean T iterable? Up here?
Yeah. T is
Well, this one is the same T that is here. If this is, I mean, if I put this, the condition doesn't work out here. It's normally when you define this, it extends the same T that you just referred to. So actually, I'm not sure to understand why this is a problem. But in order not to get the problem, I'm going to remove this because that's just going to distract us for what we would like to do. So let's just forget about this for now, this comparable thing, until I fix it, inshallah. But now, for now, everything that is comparable, we remove that, so we don't have this problem anymore. Now, do we still have something else? Is compared to now, compared to, yeah,
just a comment.
yeah, I'm going to is find min and find max, put them into comment. But I'm still having this problem now.
Same issue.
So it's not about that. It is interesting. I'm not sure why this is a problem, but it's a problem.
Make it DLL. No need for node.
What do you mean? We need a node now. We don't need the whole list. There's something probably there's a mistake that I'm doing, but I'm not seeing it. Because it looks at these are two different T's. This T here and this one are like as if they're two different ones. Let's see if I can search for extents. Am I extending something? No, there isn't. Okay, that's a bummer. Let's just quit here, first of all. Okay, let's just try to do that again. So I'm going just to delete this. Now, of course, I don't have this iterator. Now, what I'm going to do, create class in DLL. And it made it static. That's can be converted iterator where T is a variable, T object declared. What is this? Incompatible types, DLL iterator T cannot be converted to iterator T. Of course, because this has to implement iterator. Now I need to implement all abstract methods. Yeah. And I don't need this. And I'm going to use to cancel. I'm just replacing this with this. But as soon as I do that, it's just about this node here that is implementing this class. I don't know what's the problem. Okay, now this is about static. I don't want. Okay.
Private method?
Now it's the same problem again.
When you declared name the class, there was a T and the E. And
Which class?
this one, the one that you are at now.
There's no E. I'm just looking at this here, there's T, okay. But there's no E here. What do you mean? If you're talking about this, maybe.
Yeah, there was a E and there was a T.
No, no, that's not because when this was declared, they used E to refer to a type, which is just a name. As long as it's consistent with everywhere, that's fine. I don't have to use E, for example. If you say, oh, I need to be using E.
No, I mean, there was a T and an E when you
Where?
When you did the control space to complete.
Okay, I did not pay attention. It means here. Let's just remove this.
Yeah.
When I did this,
Yeah. Yeah, and implement all.
okay, this one, create a class DLL Iterator in DLL, and then where did you find that?
It was
By when I did implement,
yeah, implement after you did implement.
implements iterable
Yeah,
iterator.
yeah. There's an E and T. Why?
What do you mean E and T? Where do you see E?
Remove the iterator. Yeah, you see, there's a T and there's an E.
Iterable and it is
But this is just because when they defined iterable, they defined it by a T, and when they define the other one, they find E. It's not that's not having to do with the. It's just a name of a variable. It doesn't matter actually, as far as I know. So it's not about that. The problem is mainly here. When I'm trying to use this node here seems to have like this. Looking at this T as a different from this one, and this is what is confusing to me.
make it null.
Make it what?
Make the term to null. Check maybe the problem with
Make the temp to null. But even though it's temp, I'm going to make it null. It's going to be fine now. But I need it to be head at the beginning. I need to put this here. Now,
Can we skip this
yeah, let me just find something. This head is a DLL node, which is this T, and that's why it's kind of a big deal. Anyways, well, let's. But the problem is that we cannot do the other one unless we have this this test student, for example. It's not going to work. Let me just comment this to assume that we have some kind of iterator, but maybe let me comment this then until I fix that. So now let's assume that there's an iterator working, but it's not working actually. Our iterator is not working. But let's assume it is, just to get unstuck and move on, because we would like to have this static method print good student GPA. Now I did it just to be able to have the method that I can have, and if I would like to have the iterator, I can use that iterator because it's there, but it's not working. The code has a problem. But now if I'd like to have an iterator that iterates among all these students and just displays only those ones that have a GPA greater than 2, well, it's basically the same idea, is that I need to have a for each, now for each student in the list, and I just need to ask if the student dot get GPA, but there's no GPA. I cannot get it because it's all private, so I need to go to the student and yes, have these getters and setters. I'm just interested in the getters, so I'm not going to put the setters. Let's put getters for all of them. And now I can have this get GPA. And if the GPA is greater or equal to 2, then I'm going to print it. So print the whole student. So I'm going to print the student, because the student has a toString, so it will print all the information of that student. So I'm going to just do that. So this iterator print all students in the list with GPA greater than. Oh, it says greater than, so okay, let's remove the equal. So it's greater than 2, and then the testing we're not going to. Now the last one is this one, and then it's just having a reverse iterator instead of the iterator itself. So if I'd like to have a reverse iterator that is going to iterate instead of from the beginning until the end, but from the end to the beginning. So yeah, let's just do that with the integer because we have something already, something working. Now this iterator starts from the head all the time, and then so if I want to change this and make it now this iterator instead of being this iterator, the reverse iterator. Now this reverse iterator, instead of starting from the head, it will start from the tail. And so instead of next is previous, and that's all it needs. And this is how you can get this reverse iterator. And they still have this problem now. I need to fix it, inshallah. I'll try to Google it and try to find the problem and then tell you what was the problem, inshallah. Any questions before that? But the rest is kind of easy as far as you can use those the way we were trained them to be. Oh, now I realized something. I realized what was the problem. Look at this here. Is this a generic? This iterator, is it generic?
No.
So that was my problem. Now here I was just in the DLL, this one, I was putting this to be generic, and that was my problem. So it was considering this to be different. Now the problem is no more. And we can also keep back our things because these I mean the comment this, because we can make this to be extends comparable. And same thing that I need to do also in this iterator, the node also should be extending to comparable. So that was my problem. Now if I go back here, see the iterator, as you can see, does not complain anymore about this t. But when I define this to be another generic iterator, that was the problem. And yeah, so that was my issue. Okay, so that's all about this iterator thing, and with some twisting.